Hi there, this is Harry. Welcome back to Advanced English Lessons with Harry, where I try to help you to get a better understanding of the English language. Hopefully, we are helping you to improve your spoken English, your conversational English, your business English, or indeed, if you're preparing for that all-important proficiency exam, well, you've come to the right place. We'll help you with your vocabulary, your grammar, pronunciation, whatever it is, we are here to help you. And in this particular Advanced English lesson, we're looking at other ways to say difficult. So it's advanced English lesson looking at other ways to say difficult. So I've got 10 particular words. So I'll go through them with you and give you an example when you can use those particular words in those situations. So difficult is something that's not so easy to do. It can be some written work that's difficult. It could be a task that the school gives you that's difficult. It could be a speaking engagement and it's difficult to write the speech or to prepare for it or the presentation. Whatever it might be, there are lots and lots of things in our life is difficult. Making ends meet in terms of our budget can be difficult. But there are ways and different ways in which we can express that, and we don't have to use the word difficult all of the time. So here we've got a list of 10. I'm going to give them to you one by one, and I'll go through them at the end. And you know the drill by now. If you have any problems or you need some further explanation, just come back to me, www.englishlessonviaskype.com. Always happy to help you, always happy to give you some additional help. Okay, so back to the lesson. So, other ways to say difficult. First one, demanding. Okay, so something that is demanding is difficult. Okay, the work that I have is very demanding. Preparing lesson scripts and lesson profiles and setting out the lessons that I want to do with the students can be very demanding. Checking homework can be very demanding if there's a lot to check and you have to go over some mistakes that are repeated time and time again. Some people have jobs that are very demanding, like doctors. They demand their time, they have to be on call. Dentists, all those professional people who have spent many years qualifying can have very demanding jobs. And it depends, of course, on the hospital or the area in which they work. So demanding. Number 2, challenging. Well, something that is challenging can be difficult. It doesn't mean it's impossible, but it is going to be difficult to achieve it. So if you're into these sports where you've got to take extra risks, it could be climbing a mountain, it could be hang gliding, it could be kayaking. These can be quite challenging or quite difficult. Now, you could stand at the bottom of the mountain and you can look up and say, this is going to be difficult today, or this is going to be challenging. And challenging probably means that, yeah, you'll get there, but not without some difficulty. It's going to take a little bit longer than you thought. But when you do get to the top, you'll feel really, really good about it. So challenging. Tough, another word for difficult, tough. Tough mathematical problems, yeah? Okay, so the teacher is taking you through the course, you're getting ready for the final push before the final exams, and you know that last few weeks is going to be really, really tough. You're going to have to go over a lot of the work that you started 2 years ago in this course. You've got to remember how to solve these problems, and then you've got to put yourself in an exam situation and get ready to answer the questions that will be in front of you on the paper. So yeah, it's going to be tough. How was the exam today? Oh, it was really tough. I mean, some of the questions really challenged you, but I managed to get through it okay. So tough, but not totally difficult, something you can achieve, but it is something that you have to work at and think about. Tough. Arduous. This is an unusual name. You may not have, or unusual word, you may not have come across it before. So something that is arduous is, again, very, very difficult. Yeah, we often use this in connection with a long, hard journey. So if you had to get from one part of the continent to the other and there was some problem with your travel arrangements, or indeed for part of it you had to take trains and buses instead of a flight, then you could describe it as an arduous journey. So at the end of a very long, hard, arduous journey, you were ready for a holiday, a few days rest. So perhaps you hopped on a plane from Lisbon to Madrid. You took a train from Madrid to Barcelona. You hired a car from Barcelona to Perpignan in the south of France, and then you got a bus to take you all the way to Paris. So after 2 days traveling, you could describe that as a long, hard, arduous journey. Daunting. Daunting, like challenging, is something that is going to be difficult, but it is achievable. Okay? Running a marathon could be described as daunting. It's a difficult job to do. It's a difficult sport. You've got to put in a lot of training. You don't just decide to run a marathon tomorrow, put on your running gear and run 40 kilometers. No, you start building up with a bit of training, maybe 9 months, 12 months in advance. So you start off at 1 kilometer a day, picking it up to 2 or 3. And then by the time you get through 6 months of training, you're ready perhaps to run half marathons, and then you build it up. Effectively, you never actually run a full marathon until the day of the race. That's you're building up strength in your legs to maintain your running speed through that 40 kilometers. But it's a daunting challenge. It's difficult. But when you finish it, you'll be so glad, whatever the time you achieve. So daunting. Grueling. Grueling is about hard work. Perhaps it's hot work, working out in the sunshine if you're in a country where the sun during the summer, the temperature reaches 35 to 40 degrees. So any work outdoors is going to be very grueling, even if it's working in a garden or working on a farm, working in a vineyard, whatever it might be. That work could be grueling under the hot sun, very difficult. Or you could be working in a factory where you have to use your hands and your body strength, carrying loads, picking up loads, going from one part of the factory to the other, and you may have trolleys to help you, but there's a lot of physical work involved, so you could describe that as extremely grueling and tiring, and at the end of each day or week, you're very tired and you need to soak in a long hot bath or take a long hot shower and rest. So grueling. Rigorous, another word that you may not have come across so often. Rigorous. So rigorous can often be done or used to describe a checking procedure. So when we manufacture something, it could be computers or desktops or cameras or whatever it is, they are checked and rechecked to make sure that they work correctly before they are packaged and boxed and sent off to the wholesaler and then on to the retailer. So we could say that these items that are manufactured go through a rigorous checking procedure. So maybe every 5th or 10th or 20th item is taken off the conveyor belt and is checked rigorously to make sure that it works. Because what we don't want a lot of returns of products that don't work. Occasionally 1 or 2 will get through. That will be a problem and they'll be returned and the manufacturer will replace it. But all of these items go through a very specific, rigorous checking procedure. So rigorous means really difficult. It's not just checking to see if the box is okay. It's making sure that each individual part works, that each individual part fits, and each individual part is connected to the other. So a rigorous check. Tricky. Well, difficult and tricky. Something that's tricky is it makes you think, okay? A crossword puzzle can be tricky. I like tricky crossword puzzles because you've got to use your brains, you've got to think of those words, and often the clues that they give you are cryptic, so they're not straightforward, so you've got to really think about them. So they can be tricky. So a mathematical problem that your son or daughter brings home from school can be tricky if you haven't looked at mathematics for a long time, so you're not so sure how to help them. Yeah, a problem you have at work dealing with 2 people where there's a clash of personalities, that can also be tricky because, as you know, it's probably the biggest problem in an office, the biggest problem that if you're a manager is dealing with people and their problems. So these can be described as tricky. Not impossible, just tricky. Awkward. Well, an awkward situation is something or a situation you don't like to find yourself in, so it can be difficult. Perhaps you've had a row with your best friend. Perhaps you've had a row with one of your business partners or one of your colleagues, and nobody has had the opportunity to apologize. And when you meet the person in the elevator that morning, this is a little bit awkward. You're not sure whether you should say something, you're not sure whether you should say nothing, you're not sure whether you should apologize, and for a few seconds you sort of look there until somebody breaks the ice. So it can be described as awkward, an awkward situation. You put me in an awkward situation by telling your friend that I would be happy to help them. I don't really want to help them. So you're in an awkward or difficult situation. How do I tell them now that I cannot help them? Okay, so awkward or difficult. And finally, number 10, well, it's a very simple word that means difficult, hard, yeah? So it's not hard in terms of like cement is hard or teak or mahogany wood is hard. Hard means not easy to solve. Again, if we go back to the crossword puzzle or the cryptic clue, they can be hard. A test for driving test where it's not just simply getting into the car. Now you have to understand all the rules of the road and explain situations. That can be hard. Doing an exam 10 or 15 years after you left school or university, that can also be hard. They're not very, very difficult, but it is a challenge and it is hard. So some people find some things harder than others. Yeah, it's hard to say sorry. Yeah, it's hard to apologize because it's about our egos and our pride. These are all things that could be described as hard. Okay, so that's our list of 10 different ways in which we can say difficult. These are advanced English words or expressions about difficult. Let me give them to you one more time. 1, demanding. 2, challenging. 3, tough. 4, arduous. 5, daunting. 6, grueling. 7, rigorous. 8, tricky. 9, awkward. And 10, hard. And just be careful with some of the pronunciations. Some of them are a little bit difficult. For example, arduous. Arduous. Grueling. Grueling. Daunting. Daunting. Daunting prospect. Rigorous. A rigorous checking procedure. Rigorous. Awkward. This is one of the most difficult ones because it doesn't sound anything like it's written. Awkward. Awkward. Okay, so you practice those, practice the pronunciation, practice more importantly the use of them, see how you can use these instead of always using the word difficult or hard or difficult. Try and use some of these words. Look and listen to the situations that I've given to you. Check a few out yourself. Try to practice them, and as always, come back to me, www.englishlessonviaskype.com, if you have any other problems. Okay, this is Harry saying goodbye. Thanks for joining me, and join me for the next lesson.